Hey everyone, hope y'all doing well today. We are the Ballistic Report. My name is Taylor Moore here with Corey Spivey, and today we're gonna be talking about one Titans player in particular, and also we're gonna look at some other AFC South news that's been happening recently. So, as y'all might have seen recently from the Titans news, Isaiah Wilson, 2020 first round pick, he had tweeted on social media about he's being fed up with the Titans, and we all know that this whole situation has been going on the entire season, and right now it's looking like it may come to an end. So, Corey, as a general manager, man, would you just release him and just bite the bullet on the money that he has, capped on him, or would you try to seek some type of trade or something like that?
So I think that's a twofold question. I think you do try to seek a trade. I just don't know how much trade value he has. No one's seen him on the field. They don't really know what he's capable of athletically, other than his college resume. But in the NFL, I don't think that he's handled this very well. I also don't believe the Titans have handled it to the best of their ability. So as a general manager, I think you do try to seek out a trade. I mean, I think you'd be kind of foolish to just not to seek out a trade. But I just honestly don't think they're going to get anything out of it. And I think ultimately the decision is going to have to come down to the general manager, just not even just cutting ties. I think that they are willing to, on both sides, part ways and just mutually say, hey, I don't think this is going to work. You can just, go your way. We're going to go our way. And I think you just got to bite the bullet and just call this a bad year. Yes, you're going to have that $5.2 million cap hit, but that money's going to be gone either way. So, if that money's going to come out either way, you got to do what's best for the team on a chemistry standpoint. And I think you've got to bite the bullet and just cut them loose.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, man. Because I know last year, man, just watching the draft, like when they had, selected him, I was thinking that, okay, choosing offensive lineman, you can't really go wrong, especially if the person can give you a good 5, 10 years, on your team. So when they selected him, I was like, yeah, you know what, it's not too bad, but we could have done
Right.
better. Man, but as a GM, this is really one of those things where it's like, hey, you win some, you lose some, and this past draft, they just goofed on this one. you know, uh, you know, and it's kind of sad that it happened that way, But with Isaiah Wilson, he really doesn't have a lot of leverage, man, to say really what he wants to do because man. So hopefully he'll be entering into his second year, hopefully with another team. But he doesn't have any leverage, to really do what he wants to do, you know, and it's kind of sad that it's kind of sad that he's like the only rookie kind of seem like to kind of turn out this way, But yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Just to go ahead and just finish it off, just going to finish everything off, and just going to let him go and just take on the money and just going to take on the money that you're going to lose on for that. But man, other than that, do you think that he can make like another impact on a different team?
I think that he can if he's given the opportunity. And I think that he will be given the opportunity because I think right now, this seems to be a bigger story in the Nashville media, as Titans fans, as Nashville residents. It's left a sour taste in the players' mouth and the fans' mouth. But I don't think very many people are going to be familiar with exactly how this year played out. Now, I'm sure that there will be other teams that are going to probably call, Titans personnel and management and ask, what exactly happened here. And I think they'll have to mull that over. But I think ultimately, as this offseason passes and those teams are going to, need to fill in the gap on their offensive line, the only thing they're going to be able to revert back to is the thing that didn't emotionally affect them. And that's his college resume, which was pretty good. It was good enough to get him a first round draft pick, right? So I think that, one of these teams that's got some weakness at his position is going to look at, man, do we think we're going to be a team that can hopefully get, him and right the ship and use his talents? Or are we going to be willing to get the talent and be able to deal with the emotional issues that come attached to him? But I do think eventually and probably sooner than later, he's gonna people are going to brush this off. They're going to give him an opportunity, and I think he's going to play with a chip on his shoulder, and I think he's going to have a lot to prove, and he's going to show that he can still play for a different team.
Yeah, of course. Well, see, I think some team is going to take I think some team is going to take like a chance on him, but honestly, man, the way they're going to do is that they're going to give him like a non-guaranteed contract.
Right.
You know, man. So basically, like, hey, as soon as you mess up, we're going to cut you off, and you're a free agent again.
Right.
Man, but also it's a lot of, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but it's a certain number of teams who have a poor offensive line, squad, So I think that some team is going to be desperate enough to be like, hey, you were picked, as you said, man, like the number one, as a first round draft pick for a reason, too, So maybe, it may just take the right team just to get him galvanized, just to do what he needs to do on the field, So maybe one team is just desperate just for someone to plug in for that line. So I think one team will give him a shot, man. But if he doesn't work out with that one team that he gets that chance with, then that may be it for him.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that. And the team that immediately comes to my mind is a Seahawks team, a team that, they've got a good quarterback. Pretty much everything is in place. They just need that extra piece on the offensive line that can do some damage. So, one of those teams has, an opportunity to get a guy like Isaiah Wilson. Unfortunately, we say with our emotions, I think they're probably going to give him a chance. But as we stick in the AFC, it was a difficult week for a lot of people in the Mid-South, in the South region, dealing with the snowstorm. But the Titans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Indianapolis Colts all teamed up for once. They put the rivalry stuff to the side and were able to each donate $100,000 to the victims that were affected in Texas by this winter storm. For those that didn't see it, it was really devastating. But what are your thoughts on them being able to team up with that?
Man, honestly, man, like that's the best thing about the NFL too. I would say just being able to give back and also just to make a difference off the field too as well. So really, just looking at some of the images that I've seen some on the news, man, they're really going through right now. So to have different organizations, different teams to help out, this is exactly what they need to do. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, me too. I was, moved to be able to, for once, see all of the AFC South kind of be in one accord to help each other out. Probably the last time we're going to see something like that, especially as the season rolls back around. And the season is beginning to roll around a lot faster than we think, right? We're coming up on the spring. Teams are going to be back, getting back in facilities, hopefully, with whatever the COVID protocols are. And so teams are going to be able to, make off-season moves and finalize these draft boards. The Jacksonville Jaguars with that first pick, Urban Meyer's there. Trevor Lawrence has been the guy that a lot of people thought that they were targeting up until he had off-season surgery on his non-throwing arm, of course. But how do you think that's going to affect the Jacksonville Jaguars on that first pick? Do they stick with Trevor Lawrence, or do you think they're going to kind of shy away from him now that he's had the surgery?
Man, I honestly, ever since Trevor Lawrence, man, came into the college football and with Clemson, man, they've already been talking about him being the number one draft pick when he's eligible, man. So they've been talking about this from day one, So the fact that he's only had surgery on his left non-throwing surgery shoulder, I think that's a plus too, But really, man, like the way that he's being hyped up, and the stats that he put up with Clemson, it's kind of hard not to go with him with the number one overall pick. Not unless you might be given a good offer from a team that has a top 5, top 10 caliber quarterback who's always been proven in the league already. Someone
Right.
maybe like Deshaun Watson, and also either like Russell Wilson. There was something said about him maybe being traded or being shopped. So, so really in that case, if they don't trade for another quarterback, you have to go with Trevor Lawrence. I've been hearing things about Zach Wilson and Mac Jones and Justin Fields, but
Yeah,
Trevor Lawrence, he's been doing it ever since he came with Clemson. So I think it's hard not to choose him. What about you?
yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't think this affects much of their decision. I think it may make them, have some second thoughts about how they're going to handle him once he gets there. And I think they will err on the side of caution, especially in the offseason, kind of taking it light on him, not putting so much pressure on him in the preseason, just getting him prepared for the regular season. But I don't think that they're going to, completely stop and say, he's had surgery on that non-throwing shoulder. So that's going to affect him being the quarterback. Now, I think if he's on any other position on the field, then you probably take some consideration into that. But, that throwing arm is still going to be a cannon. He's still going to have that decisiveness. I don't think it's going to affect any of his mobility. So I think that they stick with him. And I think, again, they'd be kind of foolish and a little bit over anxious if they passed him up, because if they pass him up, that second, third, fourth team, wherever he goes, they're going to have to watch him perform, kind of like with, Justin Herbert's situation. Nobody thought that he was going to be the top guy, and he outshined pretty much everybody. So I think that they've got to stick with Trevor Lawrence. I think that they will, and we'll just see how this thing goes. And Indianapolis Colts, still in the AFC, right? A lot of quarterback changes are going on. Carson Wentz, the big trade, of the offseason so far, from the quarterback perspective, at least outside of Matthew Stafford. He's there. He's back with Frank Reich. He had, one of those down years, coming from the MVP season. Do you think he can get back on track? And do you think the Colts can accommodate his talents?
Man, honestly, I'm all right. So I'm glad he's able to get back with his former offensive coordinator, Frank Reich. But I think that he'll be comfortable, man, because he's going back to a system that he knows.
Yeah.
And the fact that he has an offensive line that he knows is going to give him time to throw the ball, and also with the top 10 defense. So really, it's on him. So more than anything, he's probably going to have more pressure this season. Just the fact that the quarterback is the only missing piece, I think, for the Indianapolis Colts. Like from the offensive side, I know they have a couple free agent wide receivers, man, but other than that, I mean, they just need that quarterback. And also, you look at Phillip Rivers, he came in 1 year and they went 11-5. So they're showing that, hey, if you just do your job, man, are you at least gonna win 10 plus games? And so if he can get at least 9 to 10, well, say 10 plus wins, just so he can have that playoff spot, so
Yeah.
if they can get at least 10 wins, I think that can be a successful season and something for him to build off of, so I think if anything, he's got to deal more with the pressure of just living up, just the fact that everything around him is set in stone, and it's just on him, just to fulfill everything that he's been kind of talking about or whatnot. So, so for him to go from the Eagles, which had a poor offensive line, and he was sacked so many times this past season, it was pretty terrible. So man, so the fact he's able to go to a team that has everything set in stone, it's on him.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it all comes down to him doing one thing. I think coming off the MVP season, the injury, the fact that Nick Foles came in and basically won with the same team, wins the MVP, and then followed by the other injury. I think he was constantly chasing getting back to 2017 Carson Wentz. And I think he just never got right. The Eagles didn't help him out a lot with personnel changes, coaching changes, and things like that. But I think it's all going to lie upon Carson Wentz being able to come in, kill all the noise, and avoid this one thing. I think this is going to be the key. Can he channel the pressure to just win for the team and not prove Jalen Hurts, Dougie P, the Eagles? Can he not try to prove them right? Because I think if he does that, I think he's going to overexert himself and, knock on wood, get himself hurt again, or just do too much and put the entire team in danger. The structure's there. That's one thing that the Colts have always done. When it's time to make a change, they've got everything in place and they move before it's too late. And so I think everything is in place. The defense is there. The offense is there. He's got some good receivers. They've got a decent running game. I think if he can just step in and just do his job, take care of the football, and just play quarterback the best he can, not only I think is he going to be able to get back on his groove, but he's going to be scary, not only in the AFC South, but in the AFC period. because the Colts did have a good year last year, but the AFC was just so stacked. So, we'll see how this goes. Hopefully it goes well, even though we're Titans fans and, it's going to get tough this year. But, like I said, we'll just see how it goes. And, like we keep saying, there's so much quarterback talk just in the AFC. We got to close this episode with the biggest story at quarterback in the AFC South. So much news surrounding him. Will Deshaun Watson get traded this year, or is he going to have to sit out?
Man, I honestly, he's going to have to sit out, man. And I say that only because the ownership of the Texans, man, that's so stubborn, man. Listen, they want him to play. And the thing about it is that they know that he's a good quarterback. They know that he's a top 5 quarterback, in my eyes at least. I think he is one. So they know that giving him up, it's like, hey, whoever we get back, they have to at least be potentially to have that same talent, man. But the way it's looking now, I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon. Just not unless some team just give up, man, like the 3 or 4 first round picks, like they're asking, because I know Matthew Stafford, they give up 2 to 3 first round picks for him, and he's 32, 33 years old. So I'm thinking that, hey, if they giving that up for Matthew Stafford, what are they going to give up for Deshaun Watson? That's a different story right there. And then also it was reports that said that he spoke with the Texas new head coach, and he basically said that I'm not suiting up this season. So, so that's kind of sad, for that first time head coach, but hey, he's sticking with his word. He's being firm. And right now, the GM and ownership, man, they just either have to let him sit out or either find a way to trade him. But if I were the GM, like, I would try to trade, man, to someone where he wants to go and just try to get the most out of it, man. Try to get the most capital out of it, man. And so it's really, in this case, you just start back in the rebuilding phase again.
Yeah, I'm sad situation, man. As this thing first started off, it was hot. There was a lot of movement around it. And there's still a lot of news around it, but there hasn't been much movement. There's a lot of talks going on. And like you said, the management in Houston is being stubborn. I don't think that they're going to move him. I don't think that there's a team out there that is going to be able to rise to the level of trade assets that not only is he worth, but that the Texans are going to ask. I don't think anybody's pockets are that deep. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody has enough capital that they're willing to give up, because if you give up too much capital and then you acquire Deshaun Watson and you don't have a team, then it was kind of a lose-lose situation. So I just ultimately, I don't think he's going to get traded. To answer the question, I do think he's going to have to sit out. But if I'm the Texans, I trade him for the best offer, because you're going to have a lot of dead cap money for the next 2 years, and he's not suiting up. You're not wanting to trade him. It's going to be a matter of who's going to blink first. And I think Deshaun Watson has the leverage, because we've seen this happen, maybe not as much with big-time players. We haven't seen a trade like this for big-time players. But if it really, really came down to it, Deshaun Watson can retire.
Yeah.
He can retire and come back in. I mean, that's the doomsday scenario, right? But ultimately, he has the leverage in that. You can't just retire the team and then say, okay, now you got to come back and play. He's still going to sit out. So I don't think he's going to be traded, but I think it would be smart to go ahead and get the best thing that you can get. But ultimately, I think this is going to be a washed year for Deshaun Watson, unfortunately. So, man, a lot's going on here. Stay tuned. I think we've got a huge, huge year coming up in the NFL with all of these moves. Of course, you're going to find all of your news, all of your sports action right here at the Ballistic Report. We appreciate you all for joining week to week. Stay tuned for more videos. Share this video with your fellow sports fans, and we'll see you next time.